why leaders die and don't get to reach their full potential.
Amazing!
Today, I want to begin to talk about what is endemic, what is critically very foundational and very essential that we seem not to be paying attention, or we know about it, we are not considering it to be. Uh, Now, nations fail because extractive economic institutions don't provide the incentives for people to save, invest, and innovate. So there are three pillars, foundational pillars of national success. If you want to measure the success of a nation, they are going to be incumbent upon these three pillars. If these three pillars are not in a right position, it means that that nation has failed. Truly require. And so for what it's worth, we cannot say that our lives are better now than it was before. We need to look at why what things the leadership does. Before the first civil war in the United States of America ended, and how these countries, US and Britain, broke even into some strategic changes. But one thing that people don't really realize why leaders die early is that they overemphasize strength, personal strength. Only you cannot do what you are being called to do. Every vision has parties and partners. And one of the things that we don't really pay attention to is that we believe that we can do things ourselves. We believe that instead of us to pay people to do the services we need to do, we can do it ourselves. We overrate our strength and forgetting that it's called, this body is the body of death. If you overwork it, it will die. If you don't find time to rest it, it will die. It will become inactive. It will become inoperational. So, inoperative. So we need to find a way to indulge others, to do what we're supposed to do. That way we have time to relax and then fire up the next day in some of the activities that were very important, is to groom people in whose hands we want to leave our vision. You don't want to assume that people who work with you are those you want to trust, because their dreams are different. There's a disproportionate amount of values in terms of ambition. So you don't want to assume that they love to work with you and they love to carry. It's different to working with you and get paid. We want to bring them into your life, bring them into your world on the basis of what you have to live by. You need to also talk them into that. That is not going to be an easy experience. You need to take some time. You need to take some time to let them find out their identity. They have to be able to identify with your heart. You put their heart in your heart. And there has to be that alignment. If that alignment is absent, it's going to be struggles. Because why some leaders die early is because they have their vision in the hands of those who don't know what it is or what the true vision is all about. They don't understand it because they were not properly updated. Because if you want to allow people to be part of your dreams, you need to be able to teach them, to talk about your vision to them before getting them to join you. Because at some point in your life, you have people you're paying salaries to, but these people are there because of the compensation value. So you separate compensation from passion. You separate salary from inspiration. And so whatever they get as a result of being with you is not to be compared to what you will do with them when they take over. They love what you are doing. They can do it without getting paid for it. And so find people and spend time to impute your life into them. One responsibility of the leader is to build people, but that is what is absent today. And that is what we are not willing to dissipate our energy on. But that's exactly what we truly need to be able to allow people to see into our lives, to see into our experiences. And so for me, one of the things I want to always share with you is that people don't even know where you're going. You cannot move people into an operation of vision without discussing the trajectory with them. Napoleon Hill said that the world has made enough room for the man whose words and action show that he knows where he's going. The world has made enough room for the man whose words, and action show. And what it means is there's going to be a relationship, a synergy. There's going to be a semblance between your word, what you speak, what you express, and how you behave, your attitude, your action. There has to be a marriage between these two identities. You need to wrap there has to be, if one cannot identify your vision when you speak, it means that vision has long gone, has long collapsed. One way to determine vision is to experience it. One person can come, a new person or a strange fellow can look at you, see the way you talk and see the way you act, can determine that this man's vision is alive. And so in governance, it is very important we imbibe this culture, the culture of exuding our vision through our words, verbally, and through our actions. Sometimes you don't need to talk. People could tell that this man is going somewhere. This woman has got a huge thing coming. So these things don't have to lie latent in you, but because you have been engrossed in the reality, in the subconscious reality of this vision, people are able to see. They could tell whether you're standing on something strong. Because if you don't know what you stand for, you could lose it. Of course, you can be with your vision and you could tell that you're hitting the rock. You're not making headway. It's called mixed emotion. Being in existence, in a room, living in a particular place, being in a space with a mindset that you know is eclipsing you from reaching your goals. Wearing an atmosphere over you that you know is contradistinct, is arbitrary to the mindset you need to have that will accelerate your dream. Being with such a lifestyle that is not consistent with what you are clamoring for, what you want people to see you for, the most dominant thought of your heart. So it's important that your dream would definitely collide with your words and action. That's why Napoleon said, the world has made enough room. The moment your word and your action are in marriage, the moment your word and your action are in synergy, the moment your word and your action are in alignment, are in synchrony, you would find that there's nothing in the world that will be impossible for you. So possibility is an offshoot of the marriage or the synchronization of your word and your action. So, ladies and gentlemen, the reason leaders die early is not extricated from a classical detachment of your word and your action. People could tell that you are not composed. As a matter of fact, in consulting, composition or composure means that there is a strong connection between what you speak and how you act. A lot of times executives are too busy, then they're talking out. The only way you can retain vision that is classical, that can pour out life on the populace, on the people around you, is when you keep quiet. So keeping quiet, be quiet for a while. Because if you engage in too much talk, you would actually spill out the beans. You will things because they're necessary, or you know what to say. Many times, your wisdom, right wisdom, it's not right wisdom when you speak it. When you're supposed to say, there are times when you follow the doctrine of primacy and recency. You must be able to know when to say a thing at the beginning. You must be able to know the right thing to say at the end. That's what's called the doctrine of primacy and recency. Primacy is at the beginning, at the time you started out. You must know the right things to do that aligns with your innermost value, your most dominant thoughts at the beginning of your vision, of your life, your potential. Are they meeting up with your true vocalization, your action? Are they in sync? And then going forward, when it gets to your recency, there has to be a relationship between your primacy and your recency. So when these two, they are actually very parallel. You see, so they are not supposed to be together. The functionality that we get is incumbent upon their parallelism. It's important to find out what makes you unique. Why leaders die early? Separate your word from your action. But in vision, your word and your action could tell where you're going. It is the marriage of your word and your action that makes it inevitable for you to break even. There's going to be a powerful trajectory that you're going to meet with. So the reason you're not making any sense is because everything you say, you could say one thing today and you say another thing tomorrow. No, vision leadership begins with being consistent. Consistency in what you speak, consistency in how you act. If you're consistent word for 90 days, if you're consistent in your word for 90 days, you would know that the universe cannot deny you anything. The reason you have issues in your organization is because of what you poured. In fact, 50% of the challenges you encounter in the workplace, in your governance, in your party, in your corporation, in your little office, even as an executive, is because your words, more than anything else in the world, is not aligning with your action. Now, you tell your students or your classes or your loyalists, your subjects, to do a thing. You give out an assignment or a task, and suddenly, when you come out tomorrow, you say, oh, let's cancel it. You are not composed. You are not composed. When you constantly do that, saying one thing today and tomorrow you cancel it, wasn't supposed to do it, you'll be viewed as an inconsistent fellow. You'll be viewed as somebody who is not serious. And so one way you can deal with that is to think through what you want to do. Think through. Get a pen and a paper and itemize the things you want to do. Think through what you want to do. If you don't want to say things in a hurry and tomorrow you change your mind, you see, this inconsistency would always reveal themselves in the output, in your outcome, And so your staff are not consciously doing what will make you angry, but there's a spirit that comes with your character. And so character really is not made in crisis. It only comes to light. But there has to be a decision you must make. First of all, like I always say that leadership is self-command. Leadership is self-command. Don't forget this. Leadership is self-command. You cannot truly lead others if you cannot command yourself. You cannot make a change. You cannot move people in a whole new trajectory of what it is that the organization or your team would want to do if you are not able to understand the principle of self-command. Because that's what leadership is all about. As a matter of fact, you aren't qualified to lead or to even start a business if you cannot lead yourself. There are people who I've met in my journey of leadership that cannot stay without women. Cannot stay without women. In the Holy Book, I saw something. You can make a covenant. There are business covenants. There are principles. You cannot align yourself with things, with habits that are capable of damaging your moral standards. See, the moment you break a moral principle, there is bound to be a crack in the foundation of your integrity. And so it's important you realize that these things aid untimely death. Why most leaders die early? They mix up a lot of things and they don't get to realize that these are the secret to a downfall of the vision. You want to be a leader, you have to deal with yourself. You have to come tough and hard on immoral dispositions. You need to be hard on yourself. If you were to meet with Nelson Mandela, you would find that he had a strong character that he built over time. I think somewhere in 1997, he celebrated his 70th birthday. I'm not certain. It's about 27 of those years he spent it behind the prison bars. Why? Because of his outspoken views on apartheid. Your vision, your confession, your words and your action would put you into certain nets, into certain prisons. Yours could be not the superficial, prison that we found in our world, not the kind of prison that Nelson Mandela found himself, but in the prison of lack of productivity because of your outspoken views to right judgment, to things that must be done properly. If you met with Mahatma Gandhi of India, you would find the strength of his character. He said he will eat nothing until his people are liberated. These are some strong heroes of our world whose life you need to go study. What did they stand for? As a leader, you must be able to bind yourself with something. If you don't stand for something, you can fall for anything. Leadership begins with self-restraint. What have you restrained yourself from doing? There is bound to be a crack in the foundations of your integrity the moment you break a moral principle. So you must bind yourself with unbendable moral code. Unbendable moral code. So the last reason why leaders die early, they don't have unbendable moral code. This is very critical even in governance. What is very predominant in the corridors of governance, politics, organizations, business, as it were, leadership in the whole, is so much of compromise. Compromise. People are not able to stand up to their true potential. People are not able to stand for something because of the powers that be. And sometimes people are afraid that when they say the truth, they're going to come clamping down on them. They're afraid to be ostracized. They're afraid to be put behind bars. Because of the fear, they chicken out. Now, that's not the life of a leader. A leader understands that certain things will bring him into grave. You must understand that you cannot compromise your values. For the sake of the people that you are leading, you are given to lead. Because if you compromise your values, what else have you achieved? Nations fail because the extractive economic institution do not provide incentives for people to do just three things: save, innovate, and invest. You want to know a nation that is doing well? Check the bank accounts, the savings, the saving power of the citizenry. You want to know a nation that is doing well? You want to know governance? You want to know leadership? A company that is doing well, look at the life of the people working in that office. So leadership is so powerful that you cannot allow it for people who don't have control or restraint over their emotions. Leadership is not emotional. Leadership is execution. Leadership does not have any relationship with sentiments. Leadership is based upon the doctrines of divinity. Leadership cannot be bent. It has to bend you. You have no powers to bend leadership. On the converse, leadership bends who has made himself or herself available to be used. Leadership is in charge. You are not in charge. it is leadership. The moment you break the principle of leadership, you are going to be living out your life, living out a script that your flesh and your limitations have written. If leadership is enforced in your office, in your political party, in governance, in your dispensation, even as a president of any nation, you cannot begin your regime with sentiments. There are things you need to be direct. As a matter of fact, there's what we call exponential leadership principles that deals with looking at the complaints and the pains of the people. And then you build policy. But if you must work, policies are just 21st century doctrines that people don't even adhere to anymore. If you're a president of any nation, policy is not a thing you must believe that without it you cannot build. You want to lead the people to another level. You don't need a policy to do that. However, it's like being traditional, okay, because there's something called policy. It's a document that contains rules, the things which the programs. It's okay to do it, but you don't need, if you have a strong will to lead the people, to lead the nation to another level, then policy will salute you. You are the policy. Leadership principles come with a will, an abstract will that you can't see. But when you are submerged, when you are enmeshed in a desire to make change, then you begin to sense it. You're not the one to lead leadership. Leadership is a personality. It overwhelms you. It envelops you in its mantle, in its carriage. People could tell, they could perceive, this guy is smelling leadership. You just understand. It's not a temperamental thing. Leadership will lead a nation. When leadership is in place, institutions will begin to sit in. Systemic corruptions cannot survive the true essence of genuine leadership. It can't survive it. This is why we always tell people that there is no reason for you to chicken out too early. This channel exists to correct the mindsets that you can do anything as a leader. Leadership is a book. You must read it, but sad news is that you can never exhaust it because it opens different layers as you graduate. As you gravitate towards the next level, it opens strange layers about life and what it is that you are pursuing. So leadership is what you must respect. Napoleon Hill said that the major weakness of all educational systems is the inability to teach the people the habit of definite decision. Decision becomes a personality. In fact, in my experience, in my travels and trainings, I often tell my clients that leadership is decision. So the foundation of leadership itself is conviction. Leadership must be piloted on the basis that you are the subject. Leadership is not your houseboy. Leadership is not your janitor. Leadership is the master. When you plug into leadership, you have bound yourself with a code that says, I want to make a change with you. Although it's going to take your life, but allow me to move you through this resolution, through these revolutions. I'm going to show strategic changes, but if you won't cut corners and allow me to move you, leadership is a spirit. I wrote a book called The Spirit of Leadership. If you want it, just indicate it in the comment section. It's called The Spirit of Leadership. I think it's in short circulation. The Spirit of Leadership. The Spirit of Leadership. So in any case, on the converse, it's leadership is a spirit. So the spirit of leadership is not the same thing as the spirit, leadership spirit. The spirit of leadership is the spirit that operates leadership. But leadership spirit is leadership that is embedded in the spirit. I said again, the spirit of leadership is the leadership that the spirit that operates leadership. That's the spirit of leadership. In fact, if the spirit of leadership overwhelms a person, that person will be enmeshed in the principles and concepts, in the moral tenets of leadership itself. Just is on tutelage, is on a training. This is the person that leadership wants to overwhelm. And this is why it's important you understand that there is no other shortcut. There's no shortcut. When you are in leadership, you have told yourself that you have lived your life and you have allowed the spirit of leadership. Leadership means change. Leadership means direction. Leadership means emancipation. Leadership means revolution. 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 Leadership revolts. All right? Leadership revolts. And so there's an amalgamation of the revolt and revolution. Do you understand now? Evolution. There are two words that I'm trying to make you see. There is revolt, leadership, strict leadership, genuine leadership, as it were. Revolt. When Martin Luther King Jr. started his leadership vision, there was a revolution. There was a revolution in America. You could call him the leader of the black race, but that is your business. But there was a revolution. It was not because it was not because of the black people, but because leadership carries a panache. It carries a dynamo that triggers certain things that you cannot stop. You cannot stand against. When leadership is on course and the person who is championing it, who leadership is championing it through, there's bound to be. So there is, when revolt means with evolution. See, do you know how life is formed? Go and read about the evolution of life. The evolution of life. So leadership brings about life. Leadership is a mixture of revolt and evolution. That is why the two words are tactically and technically the same. They talk about leadership, they mean leadership, they stand by leadership, they prophesy leadership realization. Around the whims and caprices of just one word, revolution. Because if you take away a few letters, you have evolution, revolution. Now take away arrow, what you get? So leadership is revolt plus evolution. Revolt, in the next presentation, I'm going to be dealing with revolt and evolution. The principle of leadership that no one is talking about. It's called revolt and evolution. How does it influence the spirit of leadership? I don't want to make this for too long. I'd like you to understand that I love you, but my desire is for organizations and governance, especially the United States of America, the German government, the United Kingdom, the Singaporean government, and the Canadian government, the German government, the Netherlands, the Australian, the New Zealand, the Switzerland, and all of these governments, even in Africa, should chart a path on the right slate that allows leadership to breathe. You are suffocating leadership. Suffocating leadership. Leadership is crying out, I want to do what? To change lives. I want to change races. I want to birth certain things, but allow me to do it. And this is what leadership is crying out for. Do not listen to this presentation without subscribing. Subscribe to this channel. and turn on the bell notification in order for you to get notified each time I release content here. Drop your thoughts in the comment section and tell me where you are watching. Share this video to people you think are in government. Share this video to people who are being embattled in their organizations. Share this video to executives that you believe are going through a hard time. Share this video to those who have lost confidence in themselves and the rest of courage. I have a training to be able to deal with all of these issues. This is a good leadership governance advisory. Allow me to help you. Let us good day and bye for now.